The vast chamber of the Galactic Council glowed with shifting lights from 1,000 alien symbols. Representatives of dozens of powerful civilizations sat in their high seats, their voices merging into a storm of discontent. In the center of the chamber, a projection of Earth spun slowly, blue and green against the black void. "Humans are advancing too quickly," one counselor declared, his skin gleaming with silver scales. "In less than a century they have built starships, colonized moons, and shown resistance to authority. If left unchecked, they will disrupt the balance of the galaxy." Another voice echoed, softer but sharper. "They do not fear stronger races. They fought wars even among themselves when peace was possible. If they act this way now, what will they do when they grow stronger?" Agreement swept the chamber. The decision was made. Earth would be tested. The Council would send a threat, not a warning, but an ultimatum. If humanity submitted, they would be controlled. If not, they would be erased. The message was written in formal words carved into light and transmitted across the stars. It demanded Earth's surrender. It ordered them to hand over resources, to dismantle their fleets, and to obey Council law. And if they refused, annihilation would come. On Earth, the news broke like thunder. Across the continents, screens flashed the Council's message. People in crowded cities stopped in the streets to stare. In villages, children gathered around old radios that repeated the words. Soldiers watched in silence while farmers left their fields to listen. For a moment, fear swept through humanity. The Council was ancient, powerful, and united. Humanity was new to the stars. The threat seemed final. But fear did not last long. In a hall beneath the United Nations, leaders from every nation gathered. Generals, scientists, and diplomats filled the chamber. The air was heavy, but there was no despair in their eyes. "They think we will kneel," one general said, his voice steady. "But Earth has never bowed to threats, not even from itself." A scientist leaned forward, her hands trembling with excitement, not fear. "Do they not see? This is the first time in history our planet has been united. Not by treaties, not by politics, but by survival. The Council has given us the one thing we never achieved on our own: unity." Around the world, ordinary people reacted in their own way. On social networks, jokes spread about space taxes and alien landlords. Students painted murals of Earth standing tall against the galaxy. Engineers whispered about secret projects that had been waiting for the right moment. Soldiers trained harder, their laughter louder than before. It was strange. The Council's ultimatum, meant to break humanity, had instead hardened it. When the official reply was sent back, the aliens of the Council leaned forward in their seats, expecting fear, perhaps desperate begging. Instead, what arrived stunned them. The message was polite, calm. It began with gratitude. "To the honored members of the Galactic Council, we thank you for your message. It has accomplished what centuries of diplomacy and struggle could not. It has united us." The words carried no tremor, no plea. "We thank you for showing us how strong we must become. We thank you for reminding us that freedom is never free, and we thank you for seeing us as a worthy adversary." The Council chamber grew silent. Some delegates looked at one another in disbelief. Was this arrogance? Ignorance? Or something else? The message ended with a single line. "See you soon." On Earth, the reply sparked something deeper. For the first time in history, there was no division of nations. Rivalries melted away. Old enemies shook hands. Humanity had been challenged not as tribes or countries, but as a single world. Factories lit up the night sky as they roared back to life. Shipyards along the oceans expanded. In orbit, silent stations began transmitting encrypted signals. Hidden blueprints were pulled from dusty shelves, and projects once considered myths started to take shape. Ordinary people joined in the effort. Farmers sent food to soldiers and workers. Teachers explained to children why this moment mattered, telling them stories of survival and courage. Musicians wrote songs that echoed across radios and city squares. The whole planet seemed to move to one rhythm, the rhythm of defiance. Still, questions lingered in quiet corners. Could Earth truly stand against the Council? Could humanity's spirit alone face fleets of thousands? No one knew the answer. But one truth became clear: surrender was not an option. In the Council chambers, debates flared. "They mock us," one delegate hissed, his tentacles curling in anger. "They think themselves equal," another leaned back, his eyes narrow. "Perhaps they know something we do not." But the majority agreed on one course: Earth must be punished. A fleet would be sent to make an example of the humans. Yet somewhere, hidden among the stars, a few alien species whispered to one another. They had lived under the Council's shadow for centuries. They had seen worlds burned, voices silenced. And now, for the first time, they saw a world that dared to say no, and they could not help but wonder, what if the humans could succeed? Back on Earth, a young engineer walked out of a factory at sunrise, grease on her hands, exhaustion in her eyes. She paused, looking up at the bright sky. For the first time, she did not see the stars as distant and unreachable. She saw them as a battlefield waiting for her people. And she smiled, because the Council's threat had not frightened humanity. It had awakened it, and the reply, nothing more than a thank you note, was only the beginning. The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with confusion and anger. The humans had not begged, nor had they panicked. Instead, they had thanked the Council for its threat. Some delegates saw this as arrogance. Others whispered it was madness. But no matter the interpretation, one fact was clear. Earth had refused to kneel. A fleet was ordered. 10 massive warships, supported by dozens of escorts, would be sent toward the solar system. It was not the full strength of the Council, but enough to crush a world that had only just stepped into space, or so the Council believed. On Earth, the news of the approaching fleet spread quickly. Fear returned for a moment, but it did not stay. Across the planet, a new rhythm of life emerged, one built on preparation, unity, and defiance. In old factories that once produced cars and planes, machines were retooled to build starship parts. Miners dug deeper for metals long considered rare. Energy plants worked around the clock to provide power for secret laboratories hidden in mountains and deserts. In orbit, engineers worked on vast platforms disguised as communication arrays. When the Council's probes passed by, they reported nothing unusual. But the truth was different. Behind layers of false signals and decoys, weapons were being assembled. Railguns that could launch projectiles at near-light speeds, missile silos buried inside asteroids, and fleets of drones programmed with adaptive combat software. The Council's threat had forced humanity to reveal secrets it had kept even from itself. In the halls of leadership, representatives from every nation sat together, something once thought impossible. Old flags were set aside, replaced by a single symbol, a blue planet surrounded by stars. Generals who had once argued about borders now planned strategies for the solar system as one team. Scientists who had worked in isolation now shared knowledge freely. Ideas that once took years to approve were implemented in weeks. Dr. Elena Vargas, one of Earth's leading physicists, stood before a group of leaders in Geneva. Her voice was calm, but her words carried weight. "The Council's fleet believes we will meet them head-on," she said, pointing to a glowing map of space. "But humanity has never won by fighting fair. We are unpredictable, we adapt. That is our strength." Her plan was simple. Never let the Council dictate the battlefield. Guerrilla tactics would replace brute force. Asteroid belts would become traps. Empty space would become ambush zones. Earth could not match the Council in numbers, but it could use creativity to balance the odds. The leaders nodded. They understood. Survival would come not from strength alone, but from cleverness. Meanwhile, on the streets of Earth, ordinary people found their own roles to play. Farmers grew extra food for soldiers and workers. Artists painted murals of Earth standing tall among the stars, lifting spirits in dark times. Teachers explained to children what was happening, not with fear but with pride, telling them they were part of history. Even the smallest acts carried meaning. In one village, a carpenter built wooden models of Earth's new starships and gave them to children, saying, "You must remember what we are fighting for." In a city, musicians played in public squares, their songs echoing words of courage. The people were not soldiers, but they were the foundation of the fight. The Council did not understand this, because it had never ruled over a species like humanity before. High above the planet, in a hidden orbital shipyard, a project long considered rumor was finally revealed. The vessel was unlike any Earth had built before. It was larger than an aircraft carrier, its surface lined with experimental armor, its engines designed to push faster than the Council believed possible for a young world. It carried railguns, missile pods, and swarms of autonomous drones. Its name was painted in bold letters across the hull. Unity. Unity was more than a warship. It was a symbol. Engineers, workers, and soldiers gathered beneath it during its launch ceremony. No speeches were needed. The name said everything. As Earth prepared, the Council sent spies and probes to study humanity. Tiny machines drifted into orbit, watching from afar. Some even landed in hidden places on Earth, but humans noticed. In one case, a farmer in Argentina found a strange metal object buried near his field. Instead of panic, he simply called local authorities. Within hours, scientists and soldiers arrived. The probe was dismantled, its technology studied. Every probe, every spy ship that was caught gave humanity more knowledge. The Council did not realize their surveillance had become an unintended gift. In the Council chambers, reports began arriving, factories working at double pace, ships being launched faster than expected. Strange energy readings in their asteroid belt, delegates argued. Some insisted humanity was bluffing, that their advancements were illusions. Others began to worry. If Earth truly had hidden strength, the Council could be in danger of underestimating them. But pride is a heavy chain. The Council had ruled for thousands of years. To them, one young species could not possibly be a match. The fleet continued its journey toward the solar system. As the ships drew closer, Earth prepared its first demonstration. In the darkness beyond Mars, hidden beacons activated. Light burst across space, revealing something the Council spies had missed. Dozens of warships, small compared to the Council's giants but many in number, emerged from hiding. Some had been built in secret shipyards. Others were converted cargo vessels armed with weapons never meant for trade. Each bore the same emblem, Earth United. When the Council's scouts transmitted the images back, alien commanders fell into stunned silence. Humanity was not afraid. Humanity was waiting. Back on Earth, as night fell across the continents, people looked up at the stars. In villages and cities, children pointed at the sky, asking their parents where the Council's fleet was now. Soldiers stood on watch, ready for orders. Scientists sat by glowing screens running last-minute checks. Dr. Varga, standing in a control room filled with maps of space, whispered words only a few heard. They thought their threat would weaken us, but it gave us something we never had before. It gave us one purpose, and in that moment the world understood that the Council's mistake was not in threatening Earth. It was in uniting it. The fleet was coming. The battle was near, and the thank you note had only been the beginning. The Council fleet entered the edge of the solar system like a storm. 10 massive warships, each larger than a city, pushed forward with their escorts. Their hulls glowed with the energy of weapons strong enough to shatter moons. To the Council commanders, it was a routine mission. They had done this before: intimidate, attack, and force surrender. Humanity would be no different. But as the fleet crossed the orbit of Jupiter, strange signals began to appear. Beacons lit up from asteroids. Small objects moved through the dark, almost invisible. Then came the first strike. From the belt of rocks between Mars and Jupiter, a hidden railgun fired. A slug of metal, accelerated to impossible speed, cut through space and slammed into a Council cruiser. The impact tore through its shields, and the ship broke apart in silence, flames dancing in the void. The Council fleet froze in shock. No young species should have had such weapons, especially not so well hidden. Yet before they could regroup, more shots came. Dozens of drones swarmed out of hiding places, attacking with coordinated precision. For the first time, the Council realized this would not be a simple victory. On Earth, the war room glowed with maps of space. Dr. Elena Vargas stood beside generals and leaders. Her eyes, sharp as signals from the front, reached them. "They're reacting," she said calmly, "just as we predicted. Push them into the asteroid fields. Don't give them open ground." Orders were sent. Human ships, smaller but faster, darted between rocks and shadows. They fired missiles in patterns the Council had never seen, sometimes detonating early to confuse sensors, sometimes striking with perfect accuracy. Council commanders grew frustrated. They had numbers, they had strength, but the humans moved with unpredictability. Their warships turned in ways that made no sense, until a trap was sprung. In one ambush, 3 Council battleships chased a group of human frigates, only to be caught in a crossfire from hidden platforms. Explosions lit up the dark and another battleship fell. On Earth, the people followed the updates as best they could. Governments did not hide the truth. Everyone knew the risks. But instead of despair, determination spread. In factories, workers cheered when they heard that a council ship had been destroyed. In schools, teachers told children, "This is the day our world chose to stand." Even in silence, the unity of billions could be felt. The council had thought Earth weak. Instead, it had found a planet burning with resolve. The battle dragged on for hours. Council ships destroyed several human vessels, their superior firepower undeniable. But with each human ship lost, 10 more drones appeared. With each strike, the council found itself pulled deeper into traps. In the heart of the battlefield, the warship Unity emerged. Its armor reflected the glow of explosions, its engines burning bright. It led squadrons of fighters into the largest council formation. The aliens laughed at first. One ship against giants. Impossible. But then Unity released its payload. Hundreds of drones spread like wings, each one moving with intelligence, each one designed for sacrifice. They swarmed over the council ships, tearing through weak points, overloading defenses. Unity itself fired its massive railguns, its shots punching holes into ships thought invincible. A council dreadnought turned its weapons on Unity, unleashing firepower enough to melt a mountain. For a moment, the ship shook, its armor cracking. But instead of retreating, Unity pressed forward, ramming missiles into the dreadnought's launch bays. Both ships burned in silence, but only one continued moving, Unity. Far across the galaxy, species under the Council's rule intercepted the transmissions. Hidden rebels, silent watchers, and oppressed worlds watched in awe. For centuries they had seen the Council's power as unbreakable. But now a young world stood against it and was not falling. Whispers spread. If humans could fight back, maybe others could too. Back in the council chamber, panic began to grow. Reports came in faster than the delegates could process. 4 cruisers lost. 2 battleships destroyed. Enemy tactics unpredictable. Some demanded reinforcements. Others demanded retreat. Pride battled fear, but the truth was becoming clear. Humanity was not prey. Humanity was a predator in its own right. In the final stage of the battle, the council fleet tried to regroup near Saturn. Their commanders prepared a last desperate strike to end the fight, but Earth had planned for this. Hidden on Saturn's moons were missile platforms disguised as frozen rocks. At the signal, they awoke. Hundreds of warheads launched at once, guided by AI systems that adapted mid-flight. The council ships tried to defend, their shields blazing. Some missiles were destroyed, but too many got through. Explosions tore through the fleet. Hulls cracked. Engines failed. The once proud armada was broken. In the end, only fragments of ships drifted in silence. A few survivors limped away, retreating toward the edge of the system. The battle was over. Humanity had won. On Earth, cheers erupted across every city, every village, every home. People hugged in the streets. Soldiers wept quietly in silence. Engineers, exhausted from endless nights of work, finally allowed themselves to smile. The victory came at a cost. Ships had been lost, lives sacrificed. But the important truth was clear. Earth had stood, and Earth had prevailed. When the council demanded a reply, Earth sent another message. It was short, simple, and devastating in its confidence. Your threat gave us unity. Your fleet gave us purpose. For that, thank you again. The galaxy trembled at those words. For the first time, the council was forced to recognize that a young species, barely into the stars, had stood against them and survived. And across distant worlds, oppressed peoples repeated the words in whispers, "See you soon." The humans had not only saved themselves, they had lit a fire of defiance across the galaxy. In the quiet after the storm, Dr. Vargas stood by a window overlooking the Earth. The planet glowed in the night, whole and alive. "They thought they could break us," she whispered, "but they only made us stronger." The thank you note had not been a joke. It had been a promise, and now the galaxy understood the truth. Humanity was here. Humanity was united.